You got it.
So today's speaker is Tommy Farris, and he's kind of kicking off what I call the adventure section of our speaker engagements. And if you know of anybody who's done something really exciting and who'd like to have present, let me know. So after growing up on the Olympic Peninsula, Tommy's passion for the outdoors and entrepreneurship inspired him to launch the Olympic Hiking Company in 2016, based in his hometown of Port Angeles, Washington. In what started as a business school project at the University of Washington, Tommy built Olympic Hiking Company from the ground up, scaling its business into a commercially authorized guided tour and shuttle company to operate throughout the Olympic National Park. Today, Tommy is proud to manage an outstanding team of 12 employees that help his company provide guided day tours, trailhead shuttles, and backpacking trips to over 2,500 clients per year. Tommy also serves on the board of directors for the state of Washington Tourism and is the current board president of the Port Angeles Chamber of Commerce.
Oh.
I think he's in cahoots with Carmen.
That's right.
When windows of opportunity rise, Tommy enjoys hiking deep into the backcountry of Olympic National Park, capturing photos of its most rugged and remote wilderness areas. Please join me in welcoming Tommy.
Thank you. Well, this is a great morning to be here. You all are giving me the best prep for the upcoming summer season, because I would be, leaving my house usually around 6:30 in the morning to be on time for our 7 a.m. clock-ins. Because once we get our summer season rolling, we're having daily tours departing from the Port Angeles Wharf. And 7 a.m. is when our guides start to clock in, and by 7:30, vans are hitting the road all across the Olympic Peninsula. So thank you all for helping me get ready for this 7 a.m. Push, because it's actually my favorite time of day to be doing work and up and at 'em. So I'm just thankful to be here. So my name is Tommy Farris. I really appreciate the introduction. This is home to me, and it's really exciting to have a business where we're introducing people to Port Angeles, but taking them to our beautiful backyard in Olympic National Park. So a lot of questions I get about Olympic Hiking Co. is how did it start? And the introduction covered a bit about it, but my family moved here when I was 5 years old, and I actually lived in between Port Angeles and Joyce in Freshwater Bay. So I went to Crescent High School, and when you go to Crescent High School, sports are not an option. You're actually enlisted into sports, because when you have 15 kids in your graduating class, you are going to play 8-man football. That is just your requirement as a high school male, is to play football for Crescent. So I was really busy growing up with sports. I mean, it was football in the fall, basketball in winter. For a while, it was baseball in the spring and Wilder, which transitioned into track and field. So my time growing up here wasn't really going into the beautiful backcountry of the Olympics. I wasn't, exploring this beautiful backyard. I certainly knew about Hurricane Ridge, and I obviously knew of Lake Crescent going down to Crescent High School. But, my family, we were so busy with baseball tournaments and everything else. I had no idea how lucky I was to call this place home. Well, fast forward, from graduating from Crescent High School, I went to the University of Washington. And that's when I really was shocked about how little people knew about the Olympic Peninsula or Olympic National Park overall. My freshman year, for a business school project, I had to create an idea. So I said to myself, 9 out of 10 students I met on campus had never even been west of Seattle in their life. And a lot of those were, in-state students, coming from various parts of Washington state. And so I just decided to create a website, where to go, what to do, and how to get to Olympic Peninsula. But even I really didn't understand just how beautiful a place we had here. And so basically, this was a college project I couldn't stop working on. I started to solo hike the park and take photography to build up the website content, continued to use it for various business school classes. And then I got hooked. One, when I started exploring these places for the first time, going out to the Cape Flattery Trail or the Hoh Rainforest, I was shocked by the natural beauty I was seeing. What was equally or even more surprising for me was seeing just all of the array of travelers I was meeting, not only from out of state, but internationally. And, to walk through the Hoh Rainforest parking lot or Cape Flattery Trail parking lot and seeing all those out-of-state plates, I thought to myself as a Crescent student, going out to Nia Bay, the long, windy drive, it better be good to get to this Cape Flattery Trail. But then when I got there, saw that beauty, talked to a couple from Tennessee and kind of learning about why they were traveling out here, I really knew that there was something special here. And so after college, I kind of stayed on my business track. I got a 1-year master's in accounting and actually got my CPA license and was working in public accounting. And I did that for a few years, working for Deloitte, one of the big 4 accounting firms. And 80-hour, 90-hour work weeks, that was definitely a nice taste of reality of the business world. But I really started to miss home because as I was doing those busy seasons, any free time I got, I was coming back here, hiking on the weekends, building that website, continuing this project that I had a lot of passion for. And eventually I decided to come back home, continued finance, worked at First Federal for a few years. But that really was the goal of mine, was to do whatever I could to just get closer to home where my heart was. By 2016, I was kind of at this crossroads where I said, I really, I don't want to continue accounting or finance, but I really have this passion for small business. My parents ran their own small business for 30 years. So I said, it's kind of now or never. So I decided to put my house on Airbnb. I bought a 12-passenger van and started the process to get commercially authorized in Olympic National Park. And that was a huge learning curve because not only the red tape of going through the national park, getting my van registered with the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission, everything that it takes to get an LLC, a business license, and just getting all the insurance policies in place. But finally, I was ready. 2016, it was me and a big green van, a whole lot of zeal. And I was, really excited because all the business owners I interviewed told me, hey, we're really needing some help in the guided tour space. I think there's an opportunity for you to serve some clients here. I built this website and I got everything launched, and I kind of expected this big waterfall of sales and just to have this great moment. Well, as a business school, major, I should have realized, oh yeah, demand, that's the key point. I can create these beautiful itineraries, but it doesn't really matter of your great idea. You have to get that demand for people to want that niche. And so my third best itinerary in my mind actually ended up being my most popular because it actually solved a marketplace problem. I built a package with Blackball Ferry Line and did our first afternoon Hurricane Ridge tour from 12:30 to 4:30. That lined up with that ferry schedule. So that first year, the first couple of years, I was taking about 200 Canadians over on day trips where they would catch the 10:30 from Victoria, dock and get checked in with us around 12:15, tour with us up to Hurricane Ridge from about 12:30 to 4:30, and then they'd be back on the 5:15 sailing back to Victoria. And that kind of got the momentum for me to get cash flow and expand my business. So that's a little bit about the startup story. I'm not going to go into that detail for each year, but 2017 was a really pivotal year because I hired my first employee. And that was an environmental education student from Western Washington University, Jessica Harkins. And she was an absolute rock star. But the reason why I focus on environmental education is that when we do a guided tour of Olympic National Park, we're not just trying to take people to, oh, here's the best viewpoint, here's the best site, go have fun. We're really trying to have an opportunity for our clients to really connect with nature and get to know more about Olympic National Park and really respect all aspects of the ecology, the natural history, even just the local history, things like that. So Jesse really helped me develop our first ever tour curriculum. So when you went to the Hoh Rainforest, we were identifying the sitka spruce trees or looking at the nurse log colonnades and explaining why we have such unique, ecology at the Hoh Rainforest, or how the glacier water, all the facilities from Mount Olympus, really kind of diving deep into these destinations. So that is kind of where we really started to elevate our experience of the guided tours we offered. And so in 2018, the next year, we became the only authorized trailhead shuttle company in Olympic National Park. You all may be familiar with Willie Nelson's operation with what he did with shuttles. Well, when he retired, we kind of had to fill that void that the park had, because at that point, there were no other shuttle operations in the park. So when I describe our trailhead shuttle operation, I like to describe ourselves as the ski lift on wheels. Let's say, Kathy wanted to park at Rialto Beach and hike from Odette to Rialto. She would park at her ending destination, and then we would shuttle her up to her starting trailhead at Odette so she could do that 20-mile backpacking trip with the luxury of hiking back to her car at her own pace. And so each year, of about 2,500 hikers we assist each year, about half of those are backpacker trailhead shuttles. And so we established a system of routes on the Olympic Wilderness Coast, where we serve the South Coast between Third Beach and Oil City, and then sections of the North Coast between Rialto and Ozette and Shai, or sometimes people that are doing the full section, they can join the shuttle for both. And so we actually in 2019, started to hire some employees out of Forks and left one of our vans out there at Forks Outfitters. We have a good relationship with them for them to allow us to park in their employee parking lot. So if you're ever in Forks and see a Olympic Hike and Tow van parked out there in the summer, that's why. But we have some Forks-based employees that help us run that coastal operation. And then we have some Port Angeles-based employees that help with more of the interior routes, like Salt Lake Tahoe Rainforest or Elwha to Quinault or anywhere else in between. And so that kind of started that chapter. You know, what's after 19? Oh yeah, 2020. That was kind of a hard year, right? The pandemic hit, and that was a real shock to the system. We were finally kind of getting into the rhythm of booking most of our sales in Q1, so January through March or even Q2. So all of a sudden, you know, all these advanced summer bookings, March, 2020 hits, and oh, everybody wants your money back at the same time, right? Oh yeah, got it. We'll be right there. You know, that was a challenging time for our business, and we kind of just held on for dear life. But thankfully, through wonderful programs that the chamber and the EDC were putting on to help educate business owners like me, we were able to bootstrap through that, and we were able to survive COVID through the PPP and keeping our employees on payroll and training them. And then by the time the park was ready to reopen, because I'll point out that the park was essentially closed for our commercial access and a lot of other day use access from mid-March until about July 1st was until it reopened fully. So that once we kind of made it through that survival period, we were able to get back enrolling. And thankfully, in the most recent years, 21 and 22, they've been our best years yet. So to kind of re-summarize what we do for our operations today, I'll start with the guided day tours. These guided day tours are basically, we have an office space down the Port Angeles Wharf. So if you're ever downtown getting an ice cream cone at Welly's or between Silver Lining Cafe, right by the staircase in the building, you might see a big Olympic National Park map and some exhibits. That's our open space and check-in space where we do our daily departures for our group tours or private tours. And that's where we kind of base our operations. And so we have this next year 2 main itineraries that we're going to rotate through. It's going to be one tour of Sol Duck, Lake Crescent, and Hurricane Ridge as a 9-hour day trip. And the other one, which has been our most popular, is our day trip out to the Tahoe Rainforest and Rialto Beach. And these are the most popular itineraries because our client is generally an out-of-state traveler coming here for the first time, really just trying to get the most out of their first trip to Olympic. But with private tours, we can really customize it. So let's say Carmen and her family wants to do a private tour. She has friends coming into town. Well, they can contact us and we can say, well, where do you want to go? Because when you have a private group, we can really cater it to their interests and abilities. So maybe they want to do something more adventurous like Mount Storm King, or they want to do a longer hike in the Sol Duck or the Hoe. Because we're managing that one group's interests versus like a mixed group, we're able to really dial up an itinerary that's more specific to their goals. And maybe they want to hike 8 or 10 miles. So that's more possible with our private tours. Or maybe they want to be picked up at their B&B, maybe they're staying at the Sol Duck Hot Springs Resort and they don't want to drive back into town. So we have abilities to do a lot of customization with our private tours. And we work with a lot of travel agents all over the US and some internationally that book these private tours and group tours. Just to kind of give you an insight of who our travelers are, our number 1 demographic last year was Florida, and our second place was Alabama, and our third place was Texas. So that just kind of gives you some insights to the type of clients we have. Now that's kind of the group tours, the private tours. In 2021 and in 2022, we stepped into doing guided backpacking trips, so overnight multi-day backpacking trips. Our lead backcountry guide he's an EMT in his winter months, and he's a wilderness first responder trained backcountry guide for our summer months. So what better person to be in the remote wilderness than that person, right? And so we have a team of wilderness first responder certified backcountry guides that help lead guided backpacking trips. And we ran about 6 last year. For a variety of whether it's a private group or we actually partnered with the National Parks Conservation Association to get 10 US veterans out on trail between the Sol Duck and Tahoe Rainforest, which was a really, really cool partnership opportunity. And so those would be our guided backpacking trips. And then to summarize, we kind of already touched on shuttles. Just wanted to quickly touch on some of the cooler opportunities we get to help with. We got a call from an outdoor education group out of Houston, Texas, and their goal was to get inner city kids out of Houston, Texas into the backcountry of Olympic for the first time. So they were staying at Nature Bridge, and our job was to shuttle them to various trailheads at the beginning of the trip and then pick them up at all their exit points at the very end. And so we had a really great partnership with Black Vault Transport. They would get them from SeaTac to Nature Bridge, and then we would take it from there and getting it from Nature Bridge to wherever they wanted to go. But to see the kids' faces taken off and getting, basically dropped off, the vehicles turning around, into the middle of wilderness, it was cool to see their face then, and then cool to see their face upon return when they know they made it. And they were doing some pretty healthy hikes. Some were going Graves Creek all the way through the Dosey Wallops. Some were doing Obstruction Point to Dosey Wallops. They tried to make the Hood Canal their exit point because that's where they were staying at the campground, the state park at Dosey Wallops afterwards. But it was a really good partnership because for us, we don't have vehicles over 15 passengers, which allows us to not have to hire CDL drivers. So when you do a guided tour with Olympic Hiking Co., your guide and driver is that naturalist guide leading the way for the day, and the same with your shuttle driver. Although we do have some shuttle drivers that are former CDL drivers, just because they want to drive. Now I'm throwing a bunch of information, and I on a tour would never do this much talking, right? I would love to make it interactive. So I'm going to temporarily pause real quick and see if there are any questions off the bat, because I love questions right here and then here. So yes.
I actually talked to you maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Saw your man down front of the visitor center. I was asking about Olympus.
Oh yeah.
And you were like, "Man, we're kind of early. We're getting going. We can talk about it."
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'd be very interested in doing that. I know less than 2 for a year, and I almost did that years ago. We didn't. I hear about Olympus is amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I know people who have Everest and that and said, Olympus is pretty darn cool. It's not quite Everest, but again, you never that's down. You have $100,000 trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's
I was really interested in that. I think it's private, we could do something like that.
So that's a great question, and I finally have a qualified answer. So this is great news that I can be here today to do that. Oh, it looks like we got a little milk still here, so making sure that
Sorry, we're still milk.
So last year I had the opportunity to summit Mount Olympus for the first time, and this was all possible not because of my own guiding expertise. It was because I worked with a great local business. So you all might be familiar, or of course you're familiar with Sound Bike and Kayak, Troy and Mora downtown. They're wonderful business owners. They're also incredible mountaineers. And they have access to some really great networks and relationships in the park. So one of their lead guides that led me on our trip is Sam Luthi, who did, he was the climbing ranger out at Mount Olympus for I think about 8 years. And he was stationed out at the Hoh River Valley. And so basically, Sam is someone that went up and down Mount Olympus more times than probably I could even count, of course. And so what an experience to be guided, through the glacier and identifying the crevasses and a lot of serious rope and rock climbing, work to be doing there. But I would say if anybody's interested in Mount Olympus, Sound Bike and Kayak, their kind of mountaineering arm of their company is called ISO Adventures. And I would highly recommend for them for kind of we'd stop where they kind of pick back up. And so they would kind of do that elevated, any kind of climbing like Lake Constance, Mount Olympus, things like that. So might be another great adventure series speaker to have Troy and Mora up here because they've summited Olympus many times. So that's a great question. So yeah.
For one, I'd like to congratulate you on being nominated for Young Leader of the Year.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is the future plans to maybe expand your business out to maybe help, I don't want to say handicap, but physically challenged for people who are physically challenged.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah, so at this point right now, our vans, we don't have the ADA accessible vans or fleet, but what we do is we have self-drive private tours where a lot of times we're able to kind of do these self-drive itineraries. And we were very fortunate last year to be able to assist on a visibility and mobility impaired private tour we helped curate. And so this was actually a Make-A-Wish through the AARP. And we were able to create an itinerary where we took advantage of all the best ADA accessible destinations in the park. So we did, the first day was a Elwha River, Madison Falls, and Lake Crescent tour. And so as you know, with the Elwha Road being washed out, you have that whole roadway there as a complete ADA accessible path to go up the river, Lake Crescent with all the different paved trails around there. So that was kind of a day one. And then the second day, it's just go up to Hurricane Ridge and have a blast, because now with all the paved trails by the visitor center with Surf Rim and near Higher Ridge, And they just completed the fully paved Hurricane Hill Trail, which is paved all the way now to the top, the full 1.6 miles. So Olympic is becoming a lot more accessible, which I think is great. Rialto Beach has an ADA accessible ramp that they do each year seasonally that we're able, that's why we picked Rialto Beach. So that way, if on a group tour, we have mobility impaired clients, they're still able to access the beach, because the only other walk-up beaches in the park were Ruby and the Claylock beaches, right? And even those, the sets of stairs they had weren't really advantageous. So that's why we selected Rialto. But now Ruby just had a complete renovation of their parking lot, all paved, and I think they removed all the nature stairs off of the trail down there, and they made their viewpoints a lot more accessible just from the highway there. So it's certainly something we're getting a lot more questions about, and we love being able to do that. So anyways, definitely a great focus point for us. And before I forget, one other thing that I didn't mention on the as far as our the different tour operations we've been doing. Hurricane Ridge, we really wanted to build a winter season. And so basically in 2019, I was doing a snowshoe tour up at Hurricane Ridge. Actually, I think it was into 2020, right before the pandemic came about. And we got in this massive line of cars. As you know, if you're kind of lining up for that road opening at 9, well, even as a commercial use authorization holder, we didn't have any special line privileges. So we were in line with everybody else. And we had paying clients with us, and we couldn't get up to Hurricane Ridge. We had to wait 4 hours just to get through the road, because as that parking lot fills in the wintertime, it's very limited at Hurricane Ridge. It used to be about the first 150 get in, then it's one car down, one car up the rest of the day. And that's what's been causing a lot of slowdowns also for the whole rainforest recently. So that got me thinking there's got to be a better way. We got to be able to get a shuttle going. And so Blackball Transport did kind of a pilot shuttle and getting some city lodging tax dollars to do that. But there wasn't a lot of marketing behind it at the time, because it was just advertised as a free shuttle, and the LTAC dollars only covered the cost of the operation. Well, I reached out to Roger Oakes and Blackball Transport, Ryan Mullane and Ryan Anderson at the time, and we kind of discussed plans for I really think, since we're already selling shuttles and tours to people all over, the U.S. internationally to Olympic National Park, we have good search engine optimization on the website. I feel confident we can start filling the shuttle and hopefully getting some partnership with the park. So fast forward to last year, there was a first three-way partnership between the Hurricane Ridge Winter Sports Club. They were our nonprofit partner to help get a lodging tax grant with the city of Port Angeles to fund the operation of the Blackball Transport shuttle. And then we just stepped in basically and charged a $15 administrative fee just to cover our marketing and admin costs and staff the shuttle. So last year we did a Saturday only pilot, and we had the ability to get guaranteed access up to Hurricane Ridge because they had a shuttle parking spot up for us at Hurricane Ridge. And so that Saturday pilot was extremely successful. About 80% of those shuttle clients were from outside of Clown County. And about of those 80% stayed overnight in a hotel. So it was actually kind of a self-fulfilling lodging tax dollar investment, because it allowed access to Hurricane Ridge. It drove visitors to visit the peninsula. And then those lodging tax dollars got replenished by the people actually doing the activity, which is one of the goals of the lodging tax committee. Is we know we got a summer season that's bursting at the seams, but how do we take advantage of making fall, winter, and spring more popular? And I look at Hurricane Ridge in the winter, and I will still say to this day, that's the time to explore Hurricane Ridge, because it's absolutely beautiful. So this year we expanded the schedule to both Saturdays and Sundays. And thankfully the ridership has continued to be really strong, which is great. So on Saturdays, we actually do not only the shuttle, but a guided snowshoe tour up at Hurricane Ridge, where we provide the snowshoes, the trekking poles, and have one or two guides leading the trip. Two guides usually for over 5 clients, but we've been close to selling out most of those this winter, which has been great. So a typical trip is 2 guides and 10 clients, and we're out on trail. So the shuttle departs the Port Angeles Wharf at 8:30. That gets us right to the road gate right before it opens at 9. We're generally getting there sometime between 9:30 and 10 o'clock, which gives us kind of a 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. window to recreate. So this shuttle isn't just for our clients, but anybody just wanting to go up to Hurricane Ridge to snowshoe, ski, or snowboard. And that's on the Blackball Transport shuttle bus, which is 4-wheel drive, has a gear storage compartment in the back for skis, snowboard, snowshoes, things like that, and can seat up to 27 passengers. And so that's been a really successful thing for us to not just be a summer only business, but to really push winter season, because that's January through March. And I had to train my mind, that's still 12 weekends, and that's not that much, shorter than Memorial Day through Labor Day, which we all know and love. That's just like 14 or 15 weeks. So great to kind of start pushing winter as saying we also have a winter season here, and it's just as long and just as beautiful. And the last thing I'd say about the shuttle that I'm really personally proud of is because we have lodging tax support, we're able to keep that ticket price. It's just the 15 for the shuttle plus a park pass if you don't have one, which is a $15 day use pass. So we're able to draw people from out of town while still trying to make it at an affordable price for our local community. An example is that is Olympic Hike donated the shuttle fare to get the Boys and Girls Club up there on Sunday, February 12th, I believe. So that's just a really cool opportunity we have to have an out-of-town draw for visitors while still making an access option for our local community. So just wanted to say that, and I know we're at 7:55, so I'll stop for questions now officially. So yeah, any other questions? Yeah.
You mentioned demographics. Do you have a kind of an age chart in your head of the type of people that you're taking?
Yeah, so we see a wide range of ages and abilities, which I love. So, a group tour may have a retired couple, it may have a solo traveler out of college, and it may have a family of 4 all on the same trip. And the great thing about our small group tours is that these are kind of more focused on the sightseeing and the naturalist interpretation versus hiking. So for those that have hiked the Hall of Mosses, you know that it's a very easy to moderate trail. There's minimal elevation gain, which is really good for a wide variety of our travelers. So, and then we have guides that, you're standing right next to this massive Sitka spruce tree that can be kind of talking about the really interesting history about the forestry of the Hoh rainforest or these nurse logs that you're seeing. So we really see it all. And then the private tours, especially, we're able to really cater those trips to whoever's kind of coming through our doors or answering the phone more like. So demographic is really all across the board. For our snowshoe tour, for example, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, well, I've never snowshoed before. I'm like, that's great, because 95% of our snowshoers have never snowshoed before. So we are kind of seen as a kind of a local alternative to REI, because they do some snowshoeing courses. And so rather than doing a 20 or 30 person, snowshoe 101 somewhere else, people are saying, I really want to see Hurricane Ridge. And we can do a 2-to-10 ratio and learn how to snowshoe on one of the premier snowshoeing trails in Olympic National Park. So that draws more of that regional I-5 corridor. And then again, a wide range of ages and abilities. I think this weekend it's, 50s, 60s, and some kids, like their own, adult children, like in their 20s, and then it's peppered in all over the place with that demographic. So any other questions? Otherwise, I don't want to go right to time. So,
well, Tommy, you're a huge blessing.
I appreciate it.
And I'm really happy to hear how the business is doing really well.
Okay.
And I've always been curious about your business ever since I saw you take your announcement.
Yeah.
You're it's fantastic. We really appreciate you. Yeah. On my own, I kind of wish I had your EMT with me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Rob, Rob's our membership chair. And Rob, I want you to talk to Tommy after this.
Yeah.
Tommy, look at what you could have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to celebrate 2 new Rotarians that have joined our club. So the first, we have Matthew Rainwater. You want to come get congratulations.
Thanks.
You want to get a photo with me?
Oh. We just take
Oh,
a
yeah.
picture. Well, you grew up here too,
All
Rob.
right.
Where do you want me? Right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
No, I'll just make it available. Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
And Nicholas Dawson.
Congratulations.
Hey.